There's not a lot of studies in relationship to acid reflux or GERD using apple cider vinegar. That's the big reason. Who's going to invest that much money to do a study? Because there's not a lot of profit in selling apple cider vinegar. It's very, very inexpensive. On drugs, yes, but apple cider vinegar, no. Now, as far as myself, being in practice for 30 years, I've run into thousands of patients who had acid reflux who tried apple cider vinegar and got great results. Of course, that's not a study, but it's my own personal observation that it really, really works. So we're talking about this acid in apple cider vinegar. Okay, it's called acetic acid. In fact, these little bacteria, acetic acid bacteria, live on grapes. They live on different foods, especially when that grape becomes ripened. Okay, and then when they make wine, they're going to turn that grape sugar into alcohol. But during that fermentation process, they're going to remove oxygen, because one thing about the acetic acid bacteria is they can't live with oxygen, and that's how you kill them. But if you allow this fermentation process with the conversion from grapes into alcohol to get oxygen, it eventually just turns right into vinegar.
打开的第一眼真的是太漂亮了，大家看，单烧。
So if you've checked out, check back in right now, because this is very important. Number one, the normal pH of someone's stomach should be between 1 and 3. That is extremely acid. Okay, that's normal. So when someone says that you have too much acid in your stomach, what actually are they talking about? I mean, normal acid is about as acid as you can go, like 1 to 3. So what does this mean? Someone has too much acid with acid reflux or GERD. So acid reflux, heartburn, and GERD are really not a situation where you have too much acid. You just have acid in the wrong place. You have it in the esophagus. The acid should be in the stomach. Okay. So the real problem is that valve, right? Well, that's a kind of a secondary problem. A deeper problem is the pH in your stomach is not 1 to 3. It's higher. It's more alkaline. It's not as acid as it should be. And there's a sensing mechanism between the level of pH in the stomach and your valve on the top of the stomach. They're both in communication. And so just think about it. It's logical that if you eat like meat or something, you need all that acid, right? And you don't need the acid refluxing. So that valve closes tightly if the acid reaches a certain pH. You need it very, very acid in the stomach, and the valve will close. So the real underlying cause behind GERD, acid reflux, and usually bloating, okay, and heartburn is that your strength of the acid, the pH of the acid is not between 1 and 3. It might be higher, 4, 5, 6, even 7. The stuff in your stomach is not just acid. You have other things. You have an enzyme. Okay, it's usually an inactive enzyme, and then it converts to an active enzyme. Pepsin is the active enzyme that gets activated with acid. That's a very powerful protein enzyme. Okay, that's one of the purposes of your stomach is to digest protein. You don't want that enzyme up in your esophagus. Why? Because your esophagus is also a protein. Okay, so it'll start dissolving your esophagus. We don't want that. Now, what makes that enzyme active is the pH being acid, okay, very acid. If that solution is too alkaline, the enzyme will not become active. It stays inactive. So another question is, what type of acid stimulates the active form of this enzyme peptase? Well, does it have to be hydrochloric, like in your stomach? Well, actually, no. It can be another acid. It can be apple cider vinegar, acetic acid, because that acid has a very low pH, okay? Now, this also relates to some other data about the stomach. Having your stomach acid be between 1 and 3 also will help release bile, okay? Now, if you can't release bile from the liver and the gallbladder, what happens is that you tend to get gallstones. This is why one of the big side effects from antacids and PPIs is gallstones. Now, we have pepsin, which is activated by acid, but there's other enzymes too from your pancreas, enzymes that help you digest carbohydrates, to digest fats. So when you don't have enough acid in your stomach, you're going to get less enzymes released from the pancreas and less digestion. Also,